Turn it up.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Gray?
Present.
Trustee Holtz? Present. Trustee Rogers?
Present.
Trustee Gagliano?
Present.
Trustee Darian?
Present.
And Mayor Pro Tem Sharon Sluice.
Present. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Recognition. Tonight we have invited Mike McCoy of Stanley Consultants to join us. It is with great pleasure that the village recognizes Mike McCoy for serving the community in his role as the senior resident project representative for IDOT's 159th Street Improvement Project. We want especially to thank Mike at this juncture We want to especially thank Mike McCoy at this juncture with 4 lanes of 159th Street now open for traffic and the most impactful stages of the road project completed. In his role, Mike McCoy has done a superlative job as our community liaison, troubleshooter, and technical problem solver to help reduce impacts from 159th Street road construction activities on residents and businesses over the past 5 years. During this time, Mike McCoy has helped Homer Glen in immeasurable ways and has gone above and beyond what a community might normally expect from a road project representative. Some examples include informing the community and business owners about project status in upcoming phases through periodic in-person briefing sessions held at Village Hall. A total of 5 informative sessions took place between 2015 and 2017. Helping business owners to plan for their sign relocations by staking the new right-of-way locations in the field. Mitigating and resolving issues too numerous to list, ranging from pothole repair to driveway access, along with in a variety of utilities, signage, drainage, and road design issues. Assisting the village to design and implement the yellow sign program that help mark business driveways for customers during the confusion of road construction. Mike has always been readily accessible. Numerous business owners have Mike on their speed dial. The first number the village staff calls is Mike's. Mike's dedication can be summed up in a reply he is often heard to say, "I told them to call me direct anytime." Homer Glen has much to be thankful for in having Mike McCoy in place during this important road improvement project. The village recognizes you, Mike, and presents this certificate of appreciation. Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
And
thank you. That's very nice. I've been in this business over 40 years, and this project, I've been on this project over 5 years. That's the longest of any project I've ever been on. So I'll accept this as on behalf of my team, which I can't do anything without. And this has been a challenging project in many ways, as you both know, but I think the finished product looks pretty good. And I've really come to enjoy the village of Homer Glen. A lot of nice people here, nice businesses, and it's really been a pleasure to work here, and I've enjoyed working with Janie. We've probably talked several times a week for 5 years, so I will miss you, Janie. I want you all to know she's quite an advocate for your businesses and citizens. I learned very early if I didn't take care of something, she would be on me. So, and that's about it. Thanks a lot. It's really nice, people in our business, we don't get recognition or thanks very often, so it's very nice. So, thanks a lot. And we're not done. We're still here, so you can call me. I think the finished product looks good, but we still have a lot of things we have to finish up, especially the landscaping.
I just wanted to personally thank you and apologize if my giving up your phone number caused you any additional grief at all throughout this process.
No, I kind of got used to it. So.
Okay.
Sometimes I would answer complaint department, but that's good. That's our job. So anyhow, to me it's been pleasurable. There were some shaky moments, I guess, but we're happy with the final product. So again, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of September 11, 2019 village board meeting?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of September 25, 2019 village board meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of October 9, 2019 village board meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of November 13, 2019 village board meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of November 26, 2019 village board meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm going to abstain. I was absent.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Reports and communications from the Mayor Pro Tem and other officers. The Christmas tree recycling program. With the end of the holiday season, please be aware that natural Christmas trees may be disposed of by placing the trees at the curb on your regularly scheduled waste pickup day or dropping them off at the Homer Township Road District at 14400 West 151st Street. Please look for a sign for the placement of the location. All decorations need to be removed. Electronic recycling. You received a new TV over the Christmas holidays. Do you need to recycle any old electronics? The Lockport Public Works Department accepts electronics for recycling on Tuesdays and Fridays from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. They are located at 17112 Prime Boulevard in Lockport. Proof of Will County residency will be required for all electronic recycling. They accept 2 TVs per resident, and for more information, call 815-838-0549 and choose option 8. We will start with reports from the trustees, and we'll go down to Trustee Tasmino.
Nothing to report today.
Thank you. Trustee Rogers? No. Trustee Berry?
No report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Trustee Holtz?
No report.
Trustee Gray?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just real quickly, I just wanted to say that we're wrapping up our coat donation program that we held throughout the month of December. It is still open. We said until December 28th, but we're going to keep the box out there for a short period longer until I can coordinate getting the coats over to the Salvation Army. But it was a good success. We gathered up a lot of coats and winter items, and those will be put to good use. So if anybody does have anything in their closets or anything, or they got something new for the holidays and they want to donate their old stuff that's gently used or new, we'll be more than happy to make sure that gets to the right people. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Is there a report from the village clerk?
Nothing to report.
Village attorney?
No report, Your Honor.
Thank you. Public safety official?
Just a quick one, Your Honor. I want to give a shout out on Mike McCoy's behalf also, because anytime I called him, he answered or called me back right away, and he was very professional on the phone, very easy to work with. I know I've spoken about it before, but I just wanted to remind the public the importance of locking your vehicles. Keep the keys, keep the fobs out of the cars, any valuables out of your vehicles. We got to stay especially vigilant at this time of year, because I know when people are leaving for work, they want to start their car and get it warm before you leave, but it's a prime target. If it's running with keys in it, somebody can just jump in it and take it and go. By far, the vast majority of burglary to motor vehicles or stolen vehicles are all keys left in the vehicle. Okay. The other thing I remind the public of, call the police if you see a suspicious vehicle, suspicious person, suspicious activity. Too often we'll respond to a call and somebody will say, hey, here's what I saw after the fact, but we didn't want to bother you. We are paid for a reason. We are paid to be bothered, so make sure you call us and let us know of any suspicious activity. We try to be everywhere we can, but if I got a guy patrolling a zone, he gets called away, say, for a car accident, he's not patrolling it. We try to be everywhere, but we can't be everywhere at once. So the public is our eyes and ears on the ground and give us plenty of information. Okay? And with that, that's my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lieutenant, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
For those, you see a suspicious vehicle, you recommend non-emergency or 911?
Okay, that's a great question, actually. It depends on the situation. If it's something you think that it needs to be addressed immediately, 911 is always available. If you have information, say it's past tense, or something you think is out of the ordinary that's been going on lately, that's of a non-emergency nature, they can call area code 815-727-8575, and that's the number to the Will County Sheriff's Department, and there's prompts you can follow from there, okay? But a great question. Thank you.
Village manager? No report. Public comments?
Madam Mayor, no one signed in for public comment this evening.
Thank you. We'll go on with the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. Is there a motion to approve the following items? The accounts payable for the period of December 13, 2019 through January 9, 2020 in the amount of $300,759.52. The Village of Homer Glen's November legal bills from Mahoney, Silverman and Cross LLC in the amount of $5,910. Tria Architects invoice number 3177 for Heritage Park schematic design services in the amount of $26,250. And pay estimate numbers 2 and 3 from Deconstruction for the 151st Street Bike Trail project in the combined amount of $73,971.83. Is there a motion? Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
No, you're good.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Holtz?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Barron?
Aye.
Trustee Pesmino?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye. Okay, moving on to legislation and action items. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 20001 and ordinance amending the sign regulations, section 220-1005 of chapter 220 zoning of the code of the Village of Homer Glen, case number HG 1925A, Village of Home Glen. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussions? Again, I think staff did you want to do this short presentation before
Sure.
we have questions? and
Yes,
discussion?
certainly. I would like to have Council White come up to the lectern too. So we have a few remaining questions before we adopt the code. And I'm going to go through the slides. So, kind of give a quick overview what happened since the October 17th Plan Commission meeting. We had a workshop meeting, actually did a PowerPoint presentation, followed by discussion at the December 5th Plan Commission meeting, when they approved the sign code amendments 7 to 0. And we kind of laid out the project objectives in the staff memo. The big change you see is the organization of all the standards in a tabular format. So we took out whole sections of the code. They were kind of laid out in a tabular form by zoning district. And when you look at each table, you can find out the total maximum height, total area for each type of sign, which without reading the entire section of the code. So if I can get to the next slide, please. So in the final draft, we have a few questions for the village board. One of them, of course, is the electronic message sign. Since the last board discussion, staff and Council did some additional research, and we found out if the board desire, you can include or approve electronic message boards just to one zoning district, in this case P1 zoning district, if you choose to. The alternative would be we go back to the manual changeable copies sign like you see in the picture. So I'd like to pause here and see what you would like to do with the electronic message signs.
Just open for discussion.
Are you done?
No, just on the, I'm going slide by slide.
Oh, you want our input as you go?
Or I can finish mine and you can discuss.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all right. So going to the next slide. One of the questions we got from Trustee Squeeze is the code allows the business logo signs as without any dimensional surface. Should these logo signs be required to have dimensional surface signs? And just so you know, we checked with one of the sign company, Van Bruggen. They said it's kind of hard to apply that to every business logo sign because they vary so much in the shape of the logo and the lettering. But it's your call. If you want to have dimensional surface for every business logo sign, we can put in the code, have a minimum 1/4 inch, raise as a standard. That's another question for the village board. And moving on, just a clarification on the internal illumination for multi-tenant signs. We're going to allow the illumination, and as part of the planned unit development, if the plan commission or the board would like to see a different background, you can do that on a case by case, but we're not restricting right up front. Moving on to the next slide, please. So in the draft proposal, you'll see the amortization period proposed for like 10 years. And this would give plenty of time to businesses to recoup the value of the sign. There was a question by Trustee Squeeze, can we break up into two different sections, maybe 5 years for the smaller single tenants and maybe 10 years for the larger multi-tenant signs? Certainly we can do that. Again, we'd like to hear your comments on that one. And I believe, Khan, is there anything else?
No, I don't have anything else at this time other than some of the questions that came up.
Okay. So these are questions for the village board before we come up with the final draft. Thank you.
Well, I want to start taking my page. I just have a question. This was in blue and it was added, and I'm wondering why are we opening this up to interpretation? If our code, if the sign ordinance is clear enough, why are we saying if there's an interpretation, appeal it to another commission? Why are we even going that route? If it's clear enough, it should be plan and zoning department, that's it. I mean, now you're saying, oh, well, if you don't agree with what they say, you could go to commission, you could go to the board. I was just, wondering about why that's being inserted.
Yeah, that's a traditional process for any determination by a zoning administrator. Usually you don't have a zoning administrator having the ultimate authority to deny a project. So if BJ makes a decision, makes an interpretation, that a particular sign or color or material, whatever it might be under his jurisdiction, is not appropriate, and the petitioner obviously doesn't agree and wants to propose that sign, he should be given an outlet to come before. We're recommending at this time the Plan Commission being the determining body to make that decision without it also having to come from the board. But again, that's I guess also a potential legal question if the board has to weigh in on those kinds of interpretations. I know for general zoning appeals, I believe there is the final authority. I don't know in the case of just a minor sign interpretation, if it's the same issue. But that we're trying to streamline the process. We're trying to simplify it, reduce the number of steps that a person has to go through to, get approvals and that kind of thing.
Well, when you say I'm sure everybody else has questions too, but when you say interpretation, it could be something major,
It could be, depending on what the issue was. I don't know all the scenarios on the top. I don't know what would constitute a major decision. Hopefully, the way we've structured and written the code, we're hoping that we've covered 99.9% of the issues, right? So there hopefully wouldn't be a lot of that coming before you. But potential that there might be an issue like that that the board may have some concern about. It's hard to know right now. I guess we're putting the faith and trust not only in VJ, but in this case, your plan commission. So the plan commission is the final authority. It's not just VJ or whoever the staff.
The plan commission is a recommending body, so why would they have the power to do a final decision on something? And I know you want to make the process very easy, but that's my...
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
I would just like to comment on that. I hear what you're saying, and I also hear what you're saying, and please do not take this the wrong way. I don't think that authority should be given to any one person. I think there needs to be some kind of oversight, and I think the plan commission would be the appropriate party. I mean, you look at cases in Chicago alone where, the alderman has the right to deny something along those lines. That's a lot of power for one person without any oversight.
This wouldn't change VJ's power. This would only change it if somebody had objected to VJ's decision.
Right, so what I'm saying is if they felt like somehow VJ was in the wrong or,
Right, and I think what Trustee Seuss is saying is, should that ultimate authority then lie with the plan commissioners who aren't necessarily elected or with us?
Right.
And to your point about simplifying or streamlining the process, you're really not complicating the process if instead the next step in response to a challenge to VJ's determination was to come to this board as opposed to the plan commission.
Oh, just circumvent the plan commission to go right to the board. Yeah.
I think that's what Trustee Seuss was getting at. Instead of going to the plan commission, since they are just a recommended body, ultimate authority lies on almost all of things anyhow with us. So instead of making a two-step after VJ, they would just come here.
Yeah, I think
that was.
I'm sorry.
That's exactly Trustee Gray.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I think in most zoning appeals, they do go to the plan commission before they go to the village board. Is that?
And this is only for court interpretation, not for denying the zoning approval, that ultimately comes to the village board.
Right, I just wanted to insert that as well. We're not talking about a variance to the signage code. We're talking about interpretation. For example, I just happened to get to page 39. So under this is a scale and proportion. Every sign shall have an appropriate scale and proportion in its design. That could be subject to interpretation. As opposed to someone coming and say, hey, I get a 10-foot sign and I want a 12, and that goes to planning commission for that. That's not what we're talking about. That's a variance, and those have to go to the board.
But she's still saying she wants it to go from, instead of that reading plain, she wants it to come.
And that's fine. Yep.
And I'm fine with that too.
Yeah.
Is that possible without it going to zone, I guess is my question.
It's written that way, yeah.
Because it's only a definition. I'm
It's
just saying, like,
interpretation.
there's a difference
It's
between
not
a
a-
major
yeah.
and a minor.
Yeah, it doesn't, it's not gonna trigger a public hearing. Yeah.
We can direct the board on that.
Yeah, because an interpretation, a ruling on interpretation is not like a consideration of granting a variance, which automatically triggers a public hearing process by state statute. So in this particular case, it would be BJ saying, well, I don't think that what you're submitting meets the intent of this section of the code. And they said, well, we disagree with you. We want our due process. And so there has to be due process for that. So that due process either, typically it would be like a zoning board of appeals or something like that. But in this case, if the village board wants to be that appeals board for interpretation, that's fine too. But it wouldn't trigger a public hearing in order to do that.
Should I go page by page, or how did you want to?
Yeah, I would say.
What is the consensus, okay?
I would think, like.
Front to back?
Yeah.
Starting with the, because I have some questions in the packet piece beyond this one, the amendments.
Well, what is, so it's clear, what is the consensus of what we just talked about, interpretation?
Changing it to village board.
Okay.
A challenge to BJ would go direct to board.
Okay.
I hear it.
All right.
BJ, are you done with your presentation part?
Yeah.
I have, if you guys are okay with me starting with, on page 3 of the packet piece, I have a question about the non-conforming signs portion. It says include standards that address how to bring non-conforming signs in compliance with the updated code. A sign that does not comply with the updated sign code will be deemed legally non-conforming. Repairs or alterations to a sign may trigger a requirement to remove and or replace. Sorry. But in another section, I can't put my finger on it right now, it says that if a sign has already been given a variance, this would not apply.
Right.
So this doesn't really get us to the goal then of the 4 years or 10 years of cleaning up all these errant signs. If something that's already come in the past and gotten either a variance or, I'm not sure if that applies to legal non-conforming. Obviously, we're a young community and a lot of things are legacy here. We've inherited them. So if it applies to all of those things where it's either been through variance or through legal non-conforming, through grandfathering or legacy, how are we getting to the goal of cleaning up our, making some, cohesive look to our signs?
I would ask you, Jay, to comment with regard to the extent, my limited memory or understanding is you don't have that many signs that have been subject to a variance.
Is there a list?
So I don't know that, exhibiting those is going to be a big issue.
Yeah, if you look at the last page of the code update 48, and under amortization and subsection B, exempt signs. So we're targeting the date October 24, 2006, when we adopted the first sign code from Will County. Any signs existing under the Will County code prior to that would become part of the amortization. So that's a big chunk of signs right there. So anything since the village adopted the first sign code, we're saying if they granted a variance, they would be exempted, but anything prior to October 24, 2006 that do not conform, they need to be replaced with meeting the current code. So that's how I think we came up.
What I would say to that, though, it seems like the problem signs are those signs.
So are which signs? The ones prior to incorporation or the
Like
variance?
the older signs that were,
Yeah, I agree. I think we talked about this at some point, and I think the list is a fairly small one that are, since incorporation, since our sign ordinance have been given a variance, and I think some of the signs that we all think of were prior to that. So my recollection was we're talking about a very small list here.
Sure, I mean, we haven't done the sign inventory, that's one of the plans for summertime, but yeah, that's what we're targeting.
Yeah, or maybe, let me rephrase it, a small list that I think you generally find egregious versus minor variances that you probably drive by 10 times and not notice, versus some of the ones that are clearly from before incorporation. And I don't under that list offhand, but my guess is we may have a few even since we've been here, that we potentially are telling them, you've got any number of years to go back and fix the sign that we approved in the last
No,
couple of
those would
years.
be exempt.
Those are exempt.
It's the ones prior.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I mean to this question.
Yeah.
Where it's, the original question, I think, was businesses applied for a variance and permit for their sign.
Right? And that's a small number, and some of those we may have done, and if you eliminate that part of it, yeah, I mean, we may be people that we gave variances to on signs and telling them they've got a certain period of time now to go back if we change the way it's written.
Right.
Is the way, if we change the way it's written.
There may be, I just raised this as a question, so I don't know the answer, but I believe if you granted a variance for a sign, I guess I've never had to look into this issue or ran across it before, but my understanding is there are certain rights associated with that approval.
Correct. That's not a waiver of non-conforming. That's a variance.
Yeah.
That's a-
So they would be kind of default exempt anyway, irrespective of what you did to your sign from amortization, I assume.
Correct. A waiver of non-conforming would mean there's no variance been granted. This is simply something that's been existing, and now we're at a point where we're going to put a time limit on it.
So the fact that the code says it or not, the reality is, I think, changes to the code won't affect the variances, kind of runs with the land. That's good.
Do we know how many signs that we have that were illegal non-conforming prior to our adoption of the first signage code that would fall in this category where they would be given notice that they have a certain time period, whether that's 10 years or some other period that the board decides that they are going to be put on notice that their sign must come into compliance?
No, there were some sign inventories done a long time ago, so we need to update that obviously. But yeah, we don't have a good number right now.
You think it's a dozen, half a dozen? I mean, what would you think?
Oh, yeah, more than a dozen. I mean, probably.
So it would be, over time, it would have an impact.
Right.
Can I ask a question to the village attorney? When they talked about variance, is it just pertain to Homer Glen giving the variance? Because you said there's some rights that come with a variance. A lot of this was done when it was like Will County was doing anything. So where's the time frame cut off?
So that's
Or is that variance there forever?
So we're trying to include everything prior to our sign code adoption, so all the Will County signage. So that's a question for our attorney. Can we amortize signs granted variance by Will County since we adopted our own sign code?
Then you've got the ability, your home rule municipality, so you can dictate how you want these rules to be. I know that the village has taken the approach of we've allowed things that if the county gave them a variance or if the county approved this zoning, we're going to recognize it, we're going to respect that. But you're not necessarily bound to do that.
Because I think that's where some of our sign problems was with when it was Will County giving out the signs. So we could change that.
If I could just give an example to bring it more concrete on the ground, but we believe that the big pylon signs that service the Goodings Grove Shopping Center area that have like Aldi and Meijer, there's 3 of them out there, 2 on Bell and 1 on 143rd. We believe those precede the 2006 Village Code adoption, and therefore they would be subject to amortization. I mean, that's huge. And I am also not sure what agreements were made with Meijer and the PUD and all that sort of thing. Just as a footnote, that's probably something that we need to take a look at to see what kind of agreements were made, because I know we did do follow-up work with Meijer when they finally decided to develop and open in 2014. So just wanted to put that out there.
Since we're talking about the amortization period, can we go on to that? Since it's right underneath there, we just brought that up. I just think that 10 years is excessively long to bring, these signs up. These aren't signs that, some of them might not even last another 10 years. I'd like to see somewhere between 4 and 10, something a little more reasonable. If you're looking for a suggestion, I would say I would be fine with 5.
Yeah, I agree that the 10 is a lot, and it's nice to have the notes from the planning commission where they kind of kick that back and forth. And I think one of the things in there was that they think that the 10 is it's generous, and I would agree, it's probably overly generous. You know, and again, maybe 4 is too short, so, you know, I'm not married to 4 either. I would be happy to find some middle ground also. I was thinking 6, I know about there's no 5 out there.
6 is fine with me.
Yeah, but what is it?
I think Sharon, you said you were at 6.
I'm okay with 6.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree, so yeah.
So just a related question, do you want to include the billboard by Ken Brothers as part of the amortization, or exclude the one billboard we have in town, or any future?
I think in general, it would just be 6. Both.
Both. Including,
That's my understanding of it.
okay, including the billboard.
Billboards are a more sensitive topic.
Yeah, I was going to weigh in.
Yeah,
We
sales.
talked about that. I'm glad it's only one, maybe that's not a big issue, but because the billboard represents a revenue stream, they're very expensive to get rid of. So it'd be very costly, and most likely you'll be challenged. Yeah, so that's just something to think about.
Yeah, the second one is by Cedar Road, just outside the boundary, so we got at least 2 to address.
And then what's your thoughts on the billboards?
I would say we need some input from legal counsel, and maybe we leave that fight for another day, because if what Con said, if we're going to be challenged on that, you know, if there's precedent for that, why don't we have their, counsel on that? Can we leave that portion for another day?
I don't see why not.
Yeah, I mean, somewhere in the packet, there was a reference to a recent case involving IDOT that was like $500,000 or so. It's a big number.
Yeah, they fight hard.
Yeah, it's a big number. And so,
It is.
yeah, to me, I think,
Familiar with that.
while I don't love it, I think looking at some of the recent examples, I'm okay exempting it out as the one. Because I don't think it's realistic based on what's in our packet that we're ever looking at those sums of money to get rid of one billboard.
And we've already got protections against additional billboards coming online, so we're covered on the back end on not getting any more, and maybe we have to be sensitive about how we address the one potentially too.
And I had offered an example from another community I'm working in where there is a billboard on the property, but the property is going through a rezoning and a reuse. It's changing complete use, all of the buildings going to be rehab. And the community is imposing that the billboard is a part of the rezoning process to away. So that's a condition on the rezoning of the property. So that's another way if you think about, I don't know the situation, but if there's a development and that sign sits and you're reviewing that development, you can make any condition to get out. So that's another way to potentially deal with these kinds of things.
So we are going to change that to 6 then?
6, yeah, excluding billboard.
Yeah, I mean, if did you want to go back to this part of it?
Are you in the packet piece though?
Because I remember a lengthy discussion about the electronic message signs, and I remember I was thinking, I thought they would be nice for schools, so parents in the communities were more aware of, what was going on in the schools and things like that. But when I step back and I look at it, I'd say, okay, well, now, if it's open to all of them, from here to Cedar, we could have 4. Just between here and there. I was more thinking of I was okay with it schools, but now when I look at all who would be included with it, I'm not comfortable with it.
I would also remove digital display signs, which looks like the TVs out there. So on page 34, under 19, well, you remove everything, and the rest of the board is in consensus with that, and you just say electronic message and digital display signs in all residential, commercial, industrial, or in all zonings is prohibited. I mean, it's something you could look at.
What was the consensus on that, on the last, because I remember somebody mentioned it was like a majority consensus for us not to do signage oriented.
That's what I remember.
Yeah, so I can answer that. It was discussed quite a bit at one of the last workshops. And the question was how do you determine who gets a digital and who doesn't?
Right.
And the courts have been very strict in their interpretation that you can't pick winners and losers. So the question then became, well, how do you, if you wanted to do it, allow like the library as an example to have one, how would you go about doing it without allowing a private business to do it? So there was additional research that was done after that workshop where, because we do have, which is unique in Homer's, we have a separate zoning district for public, basically governmental buildings, which includes us, the township, the library, schools, fire districts. So that way is one way where you legally could, because you're not picking a certain business or certain use. You're doing it by zoning district, and you're saying everyone within the zone this district can have it, and then the people in other zoning districts you can't. So you wouldn't fall into that being challenged legally on that. So that's why it came back around, even though it was discussed, because we didn't have that answer for you guys at the last workshop. And that's why it was discussed also at the Planning Commission. But if you do allow it for a school who's zone P, it's P zoning, you would have to allow it for anyone who's zone P zoning. And so it's all or nothing. You can't pick people within there. So if the consensus still is you don't want to do that, then we just say they're still not allowed. Now the display boards, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, BJ, and we're talking about like the menu boards on a drive-through.
Yeah.
We do not want to prohibit those.
Oh,
That was intentional. That's what the display board is. So you say no electronic signs, you still want to make sure you keep the display boards in there for that, so they're allowed to have those.
Right, well, I just wanted to make sure the differential, like what you see at McDonald's when you do your ordering versus what you see at the church, say up on Archer, which looks like a TV out there, a huge TV screen.
Yeah.
So that's, I wanted to make sure that was.
So for the business aspect, that's a done deal, already voted on, and there's nothing we can do on that?
Well, there's nothing voted on it. There were workshops. What we're asking you tonight is to adopt the village's new signage code. What you see here with the red edits and the blue additions is what we're saying based on all the work that's been done both with the boards as well, with this board as well as with the Planning Commission, is this is what we're recommending based on all that input for adoption tonight. So if the board adopts this tonight, this will replace our existing signage code that we currently have. This is the new one. So tonight's the vote. All the other stuff was conversation, workshops, input from a variety of different people, including the board, but tonight is when your final vote is.
So covering the P1 zoning, it says government buildings and public schools. So you're saying that anything under, local business, general business, and the C zones, that still hasn't been, that's still open for discussion?
Right, we took the feedback from the board and from Planning Commission, and that feedback was the majority said we don't want to allow them. And so that is the way the code is written, is not to allow them in the other zoning districts.
So what is the consensus about?
I'd like to ask one more question before we ask for consensus about the electronic portion.
Or the motion.
Do we currently allow the manual movable letters in P1? I know we have some, obviously, the fire departments and the library, I think has one. Are those grandfathered or is that permitted in P1?
These are permitted, so we're giving that as an alternative if you deny the electronic message board.
So still along to Trustee Rogers' comment about four government entities right here in a row, we still potentially would have four monuments out along 151st Street. Would they be the backlit manual change letter boards with still the 30% copy area, right? So that we're not changing that if we decide that we don't want to upgrade to electronic messaging. Okay, thank you.
And BJ, could you please also clarify for the village board that we're also recommending that if they don't do the electronic message boards for the private businesses and the commercial zoning districts, that they're allowed to have the 3 lines of the changeable
That's correct.
as well.
Yeah, and also in the current definition for the electronic message boards, they do allow time and temperature and athletic scoreboards, so we're keeping them. And going back to the definition that was cited a few minutes ago, let me go back to that.
that page 28 you're talking about?
The definition on page 28 and also the bullet point on page 34, electronic message boards and digital display signs. What that really means is the dynamic digital signs. So we'll make sure they're all consistent. Those will be prohibited, except we're keeping the time and temperature signs and the athletic scoreboards.
And gas stations.
And gas stations.
Gas stations to do the updates of their pricing. Pricing only.
Yeah, gas station pricing and on the sport field, right?
On page 3419, that digital display should be replaced with dynamic digital. It was really, it's almost a typo of sorts. It was meant to be a dynamic digital sign that was prohibited in residential, commercial, and industrial districts. And that is defined on page 28. It's the large screen or series of screens that display a message image or series of images. It looks like TV. That type of sign is a dynamic digital sign. And that with the electronic message sign, those two types of signs would be prohibited.
Right, the two of them.
Yeah, the two of them.
Just red or green letters on a, just LED lighting for text only, or a dynamic display.
Or dynamic,
which can be motion and all of those things.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think the businesses need as much help as they can get. I mean, digital sign, within certain guidelines, speaking as a business, we need them. And I'm sure the school needs them, and libraries, and anybody needs to get the word out there. We need them.
I have a question. Can we put that in particular areas, like on 159 or in commercial?
Main corridors.
The key commercial corridors?
I believe most of your C zoning, right, is in the corridors already. So I think if you applied it to the C district and allowed it, I think by default, just by the nature where the zoning exists, it's on commercial corridors. So,
or at a future point, do we make it like an overlay district or an overlay?
or you could do that if you needed to. I'm not sure you would need to. That's my point.
My second question is, as it pertains to public, and forgive me because I missed the workshop on the 26th, and I watched the video, and I was still a little confused about what the consensus was at different times. A lot of ideas going around, and I thought they were all good points. Now, the township property is not technically within the village. Correct? So does our rule in zoning with regards to the signage even apply to them? And if we widen 151st Street, say to get rid of the 3 plan or potentially 4 plans with the turning lane, 4 lanes, sorry, with the turning lane, is there even room to put digital signs in these properties? I don't think anybody in the village necessarily wants to put one in. So the library does. Can the township afford to if they ever decide to annex in? What is the likelihood that we'll see that on 151st Street? That's kind of something that kind of came to my head just now. And then I do wonder, so that's what I was saying before, what is that list? So for example, the list of the signs that are legally non-conforming but did come get a variance, for example, Touch It Green. Did he get a variance? Did he lose his sign?
It was conditional though. Yeah, he was allowed to have the sign under certain conditions until the 159th Street was completed. Is that correct?
I'm defer to Jamie. Yeah, technically, he has conditions he should be adhering to right now, but we have allowed for the next year, promotional signs, and it's kind of a little bit of a stretch, but we're giving everybody out on 159th Street just a little bit of a buffer. Technically, though, the ordinance that was approved with the conditions that were included in there, he's not supposed to have it changing and flashing.
Okay.
And it's supposed to, I think it's only once every 24 hours, as a matter of fact.
And what year was that? That was fairly recent.
No,
It feels like 2015 or 2016, when all the signs had to come down and be relocated out there. Maybe it was 2017, but yeah, so.
Seems like yesterday. But yeah, so with regards to the public budget, I mean, I do see it being a good thing for schools. So like I said, you can't pick and choose within that P zoning. But at this point, what properties are we really actually talking about at being a possibility? And also, you know, we have this whole issue of Goodings Grove is quite possibly being sold. And,
Could we rezone it?
right. So then.
Right, wouldn't that
That would be
be
rezoned, but I'm
rezoned
saying-
for the use?
Right, they're saying they're not going to spend any money to put an electronic sign there.
Well,
You know, I'm thinking hypothetically, when these signs pop up.
But hypothetically, we need to think that all of them could do it.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
That's
you know,
fine.
go to the worst case instead of the least case.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, the picture in my head where all these signs going to go.
Trustee Holmes, you talk about the property on right next door, the township property.
Yes.
It shows in the zoning code that's within village limits.
Yeah, it's actually zoned agricultural. They did not want to be zoned P1. I think 3 years ago I went to the township and they
Is
did
that what
not.
it was? I knew there was an issue. I didn't.
Just a rezoning issue, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to clarify, you did ask me a question about the widening 158 First Street. Now, the proposed widening for 151st Street right now that we're working on is only three lanes. So it's a turn lane, a middle turn lane. So it won't be quite as big as what you're thinking like 159th Street was too.
Any other questions on this topic or to?
No, I agree with where we kind of started on not having the electronic portions in the P1, but making sure that we are still allowing, which you clarified for me, that we're still allowing the manual changeable 30%, you know, kind of like what we see around town right now.
And I'm good with that too.
and also we're not doing dynamic digital, right?
Pardon? No dynamic digital.
No dynamic digital.
Except for, like you said, the certain provisions that we have for gas stations, time and time, drive-throughs, if they have, you know, the
menu
interactive type things.
So just out of curiosity, the reasoning behind not having it in the C areas, I mean, and the P areas as the consensus, is it because, what's the reasoning behind that, just out of curiosity?
No, because it's going to, let's stay with what we have, because the thing is, you're going to have these popping up all over, and it's just it's more of a visual effect type.
In the
That's in my personal
Right.
feeling. Because when you have that, then there's no way, you know, who's going to manage around the time these things flash all over the place.
Oh, yes.
And things like that. I know, so no, you're not going to get my that.
Well, I don't even mow when it's not my property, but I'm just saying, it's unfair to the businesses on the main corridors, I would say, for us to say, I mean, we're once again tying the hands behind the businesses, and just another reason for them not to come into our town, because they're saying, you can't have this. It might be how it was before, but we're all about making things better and tweaking things and making sure that we're being fair to our businesses. Because at the end of the day, it's a choice between coming to us or Orland or, Lamont or whatever. It's bad enough.
I don't see too many of these in Orland even.
No.
I mean, this is really, if you're talking about allowing any freestanding building to have a rotating sign like this, you're changing the dynamic and the character of the lot.
Well, we could, within reason, everything within reason. I mean, we can tweak it. That's what's nice about these things. You can tweak it to exactly what you want for your town. Doesn't have to be Vegas,
But it could be if it's by zoning.
If it's by zoning, it's going to
but you
be.
can regulate it, right?
How? Restriction.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the new guy. Teach me, show me, you know what I mean? I want to, you guys are saying I don't talk about it, so I need to talk. But at the end of the day, I just feel like, we're kind of falling back into the old way of things, and I think we should be a little more forthcoming, a little more innovative.
I think that this sign ordinance is a step in that direction. I mean, we're going higher, we're going more.
But it looks like we're taking away, not giving more.
No.
We're, right in the thing, we're considering, presumably, we'll vote on all of these things, but we're considering canopy signs and awning signs.
Going higher.
Right, going higher in size. There's a lot of changes to this.
There's nothing taking away. Anything in here, unless I'm wrong, unless I missed something, anything in here is adding to the businesses, it's helping the businesses. So that we're moving in that direction, but to go from saying we don't have digital signs to saying we're going to have digital signs, what I remember the conversation was, that just really changes the character But you rarely see them in any of towns around here. I don't see them in Frankfurt. I don't see them in, I'm trying to think of where I see it in Orland, and I can't think of it anywhere. Pardon? They're not in Orland. So it just, I don't think it's conducive to.
For me, it's an enforcement issue, right? We have one right now that we're having trouble enforcing. We have one. And that, to me, is probably the biggest reason, is you can write it, it's enforcement at the end of the day. And I think enforcement on these would be very, very difficult at this day and time for this village with this staff size, when we have one right now that already is having an enforcement issue, right?
In his defense, I mean, the street was halfway closed.
Agreed. Agreed.
And that's why they let them.
And, you know, we appreciate what you've done on emergency and cutting us some slack.
It wasn't me, it was the board.
Yeah, I'm saying that's just on one though, and I agree, right? Everybody on 159th Street has been through hell and back over the last 4 years. And, pardon me?
6 years.
6 years.
It's been a while.
Yeah. But to me, my main issue is an enforcement issue that I think would be very difficult. Temporary signs right now are very difficult. So that's my reason.
Can I just ask a question? Are you guys opposed to the corridor signage, or
I couldn't hear you.
like the corners or whatever, to have those signs, the flashing signs, those, you guys are completely out with those?
Right.
Just asking. Where's George?
I have one more question on page 2 in the packet piece. On the definitions where we're talking about dimensional surface signs and box signs, and I know this kind of came up a little bit, and maybe in the other packet piece as well, but to Trustee Sweet's point about the, it's not a channel letter sign, it's the Aldi sign. I mean, we don't have that slide up here anymore, but you know, when we talked about that when Aldi expanded their store, and we asked them, instead of doing the typical box sign like they do everywhere else, we asked them to put some dimension into that, and their sign was really good. You know, there's no doubt about that. Everybody would say, looks great, you know, doesn't conform to channel letters, but that's not their corporate thing. So we asked them to, you know, Disneyify it and plus it a little bit and come up with this, and that looks great. So Trustee Sweets and I talked a little bit, and I said, you know, why don't we make our thing, you know, we still want channel letters for wall, for, you know, as much as we can, but for the logo portion, if a business comes along and their logo is only a box sign like that, and I know some Starbucks are like that where it's just the roundel of the girl, or I think here. If that truly is your only sign, then that would have to be dimensioned. If it's the roundel for Starbucks and channelized letter, then that would be flat in the channelized letter, because you're you know, it's kind of a hybrid. But I like the idea of maybe going to a dimensional one. If you really say, you know what, this is like all, you know, we push back to them, they push back to us, and we push back to them again. And what we ultimately gave birth to was a very nice little sign.
Is that where the quarter inch comes into play?
Yeah, and that's the other thing about the, you know, a quarter inch at 20 feet up in the air, I don't necessarily know. I'd like to know what some of the dimensions are on some of these signs out there, because I don't know that a quarter inch is going to make a difference over a distance, you know.
Just for the accuracy of the record, did you spell Disneyify?
They told me when you gave birth.
No, I think that's a good idea, you know, if it's just their logo sign, as long as there's lettering underneath or above or something like that, that would be flat, but if it's like the Aldi, I agree with dimensional. When we were talking about dimensional, I think they need direction as far as how, you know, you can, what is it, a quarter inch, a half inch? I think they need to put in there minimum raised or minimum, you know, 2 inches. You know, I think they need something so that when somebody asks, okay, I'll do the dimensional sign, but what is your minimum? How far out should it be? So I think you need to come in like with 2 inches or something or more.
We need to establish some standards.
Yeah, establish standards of what you're talking about for dimensional surface.
We're just looking at the sign, the logo. behind you guys, which is a dimensional sign, this would be classified.
3/4 inch.
Yeah, so I don't know how deep those are, but we definitely have to.
So you
come
can't
up
even tell from here if that was a quarter inch and it was 10 feet
No,
above
yeah,
you,
yeah,
still,
right,
you know, it would have that much of
Yeah,
an
quarter
impact.
inch.
It's about a quarter inch.
About a quarter inch.
Right, but that's inside, but you know, outside, we have to have it deeper or raised or.
Obviously, we want it to just look as premium as possible, and so we get away from the, you know, the corporate sign guy who's sitting in Tallahassee, and he's just pushing them out all across the country. You know, we want it to be a little bit different here in Homer Glen. So, and that was where we ended up on the all.
Don't we have a permit and specifications for the old design? Can't we get those and use that as kind of like a?
We actually checked with the sign company about the business logo signs. They're saying they're advising not to go over quarter an inch because each sign is so different. It may not be practical for all the logos to raise up to 2 inches. So go for the base, like quarter inch, and if they can do more, that's fine. But that's the advice we got. So.
But when you see a sign outside, a quarter inch, like if you see this sign from the other room, it's not going to even have an effect. I'm not saying 2 inches, I'm saying something, but if you're looking at only a half inch or something when it's an outside sign, it means, might as well just have the flat box sign at that point. You know?
We probably need more information on what the parameters are, how far can we push it.
You want to go more than 4 inch now?
I think that setting the base at quarter inch.
No, quarter inch.
I think setting the base at quarter inch, everybody can get a quarter inch. I think if you push it to 1 inch as the minimum and make people come and prove to you that they can, you know, then that's how you advance that, you know.
So this would be.
But again, I'd be open to hearing from some sign companies to say, you're crazy, you know, you can't do that. But also, we need the parameters of what we know is out there.
Yeah, I mean, all we had to have turned in the drawings and stuff.
That's not 2 inches, I mean, it's less than 2 inches.
Right, I think we find out what those are, maybe have that be. We all agree that.
Yeah, we can get that information, and like I said, BJ did reach out to a sign manufacturer for some input as well before tonight, and that's where the quarter inch came from. But we can check the Aldi too, and then what I would like to do with this input tonight, instead of having you vote on this stuff tonight, I would like to get all the input tonight, and then I'd like for us to go back and give you guys another complete final version, and you guys can vote on that at the next meeting. Okay?
Yeah. And I'm good with the quarter inch as a starting point, but I would like to know what all the one is, and maybe that could be the starting point.
We'll check it.
You know.
So that's all I have in the practical piece. If you guys have anything else on it. But I do have questions about the other things. My first question is on page 4 of Con. This is on your report. Page 4, the new number 8 in blue. It refers to flagpoles. And I know that your wingman was in here who knew all about the First Amendment and infringements, but wouldn't this be considered an infringement of First Amendment rights that you say that you're going to allow people to have up to 3 flagpoles and they can only have the U.S. flag, the state flag, and the county flag? What if I want to fly the Cubs flag or the Village of Homer Glen flag or my Czechoslovakian flag? I mean, and what if I only have 1 pole? Which one do I come down?
I'm sorry, I'm not following what page number you're on.
Page
4 in your packet?
The extra code.
Right there, Katie, by the time it's time.
That mostly is existing language. We didn't change number 8. There's only some text in the middle that was stricken out to make it more content neutral.
Free speech.
So, yeah, we didn't make that. We didn't make any change to that. It's existing.
Except for the phrase that's stricken that says or other corporate, national, organizational flag. I think that's your point there.
Right.
That's the right.
That's the infringement.
Yeah.
Or that's the possible. Keep it.
You want to keep that in? This is, many codes do have that you can just fly these type of flags, but again, based on, you know, who's going to challenge it, right? And so we can defer to the attorney on that.
So are we taking the corporate and national flags?
And then paragraph 8, the portion that stricken, you want to keep that in.
Well, I would argue, at least with regard to corporate, really, is that necessary? It seems like that's advertising. I mean, I can understand national if it's a country. Organizational, I'm not even sure what an organizational flag is.
Cubs, Sox, Bears, NASCAR.
That would be corporate. That would be corporate.
Veterans
Anyway, that's up to you, but
Yeah.
I don't know, it's some extra.
Chamber of Commerce, I guess, be another thing. I'm fine with leaving it in, I mean, especially if the attorney saying it should leave it in.
I would say we just have to have an issue that they're aware
Yeah.
of. So, you know,
Why strike?
Right.
Me again? On page 13.
Can we go back to page 5?
Sure.
If we're going in order?
Yeah. Page 5.
Page 5, the number 14, would this restrict businesses from decorating for Christmas?
LED strings.
Page 5, number 14, would this restrict businesses from decorating for Christmas? For the holidays?
Well, not if they abide by the standards.
Not the what?
Abide by the standards, the way they're written. But the neon string or LED, so this would not include the typical Christmas lights that are usually just seasonal. These type of lights are typically more permanent.
I guess it's...
That'd be my interpretation of it.
Yeah, I think it's up to interpretation.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily specific enough because it does says
Yeah,
it's to the outside.
Trying to target the things that are more permanent
Right.
at the holidays.
So I think if we could just put something in there.
Maybe just the word permanent LED
Yes.
or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
The building
Qualifies as not permanent though. If I take
Well,
it
yeah,
down,
yeah, that's right. Now it's
temporary.
a definition.
The building code does address temporary Christmas lighting.
It
It's a
does.
30-day period.
Okay.
Okay, so then we're covered then.
Okay, good.
Okay, good. That's all I just want to make sure that that doesn't something that's restricted.
I think most of us have seen places where they have those glaring rope or LED lights.
Yes.
I don't know where that line 14 came from, but I don't remember that one.
I'm glad it came in
Yeah.
because it's getting, developed. They're starting to put it off all over.
So I have a question because I remember having discussions with previous zoning staff, and perhaps the local chime in, because I was under the understanding that if it's within their premises, that we don't have the right to tell them that they can't put those road lights.
If it's within their premises,
Yeah.
inside the building.
I mean, that he could have told me the wrong information.
Yeah. I'm not sure, so I don't think that doesn't tell you the risk that we're talking
So like a patio or a pergola or something like that, even though it's not within four walls, outside of the building.
Or within one side of a window or sign inside or outside the building. So right now we have, one or two businesses that have their interior windows lit up with road lights. And I was told by a previous zoning director that we can't tell him he can't do that.
Actually, you can.
Okay.
Yes.
We can.
Okay.
We can regulate, as long as it's clear what our regulations and our zoning codes are, we can regulate that.
Right.
Whether it's on the inside, wrapped around, or on the outside, yeah. This would regulate
that,
that.
so we can
Yes.
say,
And that is completely within local government's authority to do so.
excellent.
Previously, we did not have language that
I would say it's
Right.
that's
Right, so this is accomplishing that task.
This is, yeah.
Okay, cool, I'm good with that.
I have a question on 33, but I don't know, let's go.
I have one on 13 if you don't mind, before we go
No, yeah, let's
in
go over.
order so we get all the way through it. On 13, we go into the permitted signs in agricultural districts. And this, is this a real big increase of the signage rate, of the allowed signage in ag districts? Because we have to kind of refer back to that whole big section that's all stricken, starting on page 5. And it says, zoning district regulations, the following sign requirements shall apply within the following zoning districts. and then it says ag and residential districts, and really, it says farm produce signs, school signs, multi-family signs, but it doesn't say anything about, well, maybe BJ, can you explain that to us? Is this a pretty hefty expansion of what is allowed in the ag?
Yeah, we kind of expanded on the ag zoning, but the current code doesn't really get into this level of detail. I mean, it talks about the public, commercial, residential, not this level of detail for ag zoning, and we have been getting a lot of commercial signage for agricultural
Yeah,
activities.
I think that's getting too close to commercial. There's no this is how I feel. There's no separation between ag and commercial if you're getting to that point, other than the fact that, they're not commercial zone area, which I'm sure the tax people would probably have a problem with if they're going to enjoy all of the other, rights and privileges of a commercial zoning district. What then ticks that box over to say this is commercial versus ag?
That's the next step in the comprehensive plan process. We're going to create an ag business district, so that's actually the next step what we're working on.
Then I think this ag portion of it is premature.
So,
at least of the sign. I mean, how do you approve the signage for something that you haven't approved the use of?
Sure.
so we could,
Right now, if there's an ag business that has a for-profit commercial business with it, how do we currently regulate our signage for that?
I mean, we don't allow commercial tax signage right now.
So they're not allowed to have anything?
Right, because it's considered agritourism.
Right. So this would allow basically a sign not to exceed 100 square feet, which is basically 10 by 10, and also allow awning signs in those agricultural zone businesses, which our current code does not allow at all.
Right. And awning signs, canopy signs,
Yeah.
wall signs, multi-tenant signs. Again, I think we're getting away from where ag is right now. If you're saying that we're going to go look at ag down the road, and we're going to consider some of those things, then the signage, to me, for that would follow that. If you'd establish the use, and maybe at the same time establish the signage. Because what do you need multi-tenant for in ag? I mean, if you're selling peaches or something, or, it's a pumpkin thing, it's one use. It's one farm, and they have one basic use. If they are going to break it out, if it was a banquet hall, and then all of a sudden you're going to have tuxedo rentals and all those types of things, well, that's becoming much more of a commercial application.
So right now, the code is very limited to farm produce signs, like 18 square feet. So it's very limited signage. So I guess we got to figure out a way to connect this with the ag business zoning district, which is the next step in the comprehensive plan.
So then going on to page 16, where we see these same tables, and these tables are now replacing kind of all that stricken red copy that preceded, right? So when we get to the next set of tables that are for residential, for E1, E2, R1 through R6A, a lot of it says residential, not applicable, or prohibited, and then it says non-residential. Are we just trying to get into using this table look? I don't get why we would say we're in residential zoning district, but it says non-residential, and then it lays out all the parameters that apply to that. If this applies just to residential zones, wouldn't it only be the residential non-applicable or prohibited?
Well, there would be non-residential uses that would be allowed in residential zones. A church.
Like a daycare center, say?
Those are typically special uses. So there's other.
So this would pull that out of the special use category?
It applies to those uses that would be allowed as a special use or permitted.
So it's not taking away the special use, not taking away the permanent portion of it, it's just the zoning. Okay. Sure, I think we're up to 33. I am.
33?
Again, I'm not the only driver here. This bus has many wheels.
Okay, you're talking about prohibited signs. So unless I have a tab somewhere else to ask, but when it says moving, rotating, flashing signs, shouldn't you, I don't see where it says inside or out, because there's there's businesses now, and I don't want to say the name, but they have big message signs going across, that's about 3 to 4 foot wide, and it's inside. So when you say prohibited signs, are you just saying if it's outside? Or are we dealing with inside?
Visible from outside, maybe.
Yeah, visible from outside, what are we referring to here? Because everybody could start putting it right inside their window, and they have these long signs with messages going across.
Under the definition on page 32, it has a definition of sign. And what it talks about is that the last sentence in it, sign shall not include a sign located completely within an enclosed building unless the content is readily visible from the street or other public place. So if you can see that from the outside, it's in the window, even though it's still within the enclosed building, it would constitute a sign that it's subject to
prohibition.
Your ordinance.
That's it. All right, that's what I wanted to make sure about. On page, I don't know if anybody else, I have on page 35, I don't understand why we're leaving in exempt signs and we're leaving in number 6. Because personally, I would like to remove light pole banners right now, because we could have these hanging up all over the place. Those are those big banners that hang from light poles. So I don't think they should be an exempt sign. I think they should be there.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but those are public, they're not. Anyway, can't just go hang up a banner.
Well, there's 2 types. There's one that you can hang on in the right of way, which is, as you know, you guys have all seen the example, the chamber one has been in my office where they want to hang some of those in our commercial corridors. And then there's ones that sometimes you see that are hanging on a private property. We don't have a car dealer in Homer, but if you think about like some car dealers where they'll have the Honda's logo hanging in the used or new car parking lot on some of the light poles.
So even a microphone on the light poles in the parking lot, right?
Yeah,
protects the sales or whatever.
right.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily want to see that, but I don't have a problem with chamber banners on public.
This would exempt us.
Yeah, so
well, that's why I want it removed, because I don't want it to be exempt. That's my opinion.
I do think the visual preference survey, correct me if I'm wrong, that there were some that thought that having these could look very nice. I mean, they are another mode of businesses for advertising their businesses in a less intrusive way than an actual sign, and actually is less expensive for our businesses because those type of light pole banners are not as expensive as a permanent monument sign. As it relates to the right-of-way signs, you guys would have to approve those as a separate approval to go in the right-of-way because signs aren't permitted in the right-of-way.
Okay. And light pole banners are also a common element of a branding strategy, branding program. This is part of the collateral that goes out if you do have your brand image determined and all of that.
And I guess I would only say not that I want to, and I'm putting my economic development hat on here, but I would say if you're not going to give them the electronic message boards, this is something that you can get in that can be added that can be done in good taste at a low cost for our local businesses.
So you're saying,
I would recommend maybe you put some language in there regarding maintenance, because they can get, take a look.
Yeah, they have to be in good condition.
Right.
putting something, you're right.
There's a whole maintenance section.
That's in the maintenance section?
I mean, I think there's a whole section in the site for that.
But does it specify banners as well, or is it just about signs?
No, I think it said that they need to be maintained, they can't be torn, they can't be repaired.
Safe, secure, presentable, structural sound. Page 45.
Anybody else have any more comments?
and it's, and I've seen it, I think I remember saying, I think it would be nice if the village had a standard that the channel letters need to be on the raceways instead of flush mounted, because what happens is they're individually flush mounted to these drive that are stuck over, brick outside of the buildings, then the tenants move, they pull those out, you have these holes, the new tenant comes back up, they may or may not caulk those holes, it turns into an eyesore fast. When you have it on the raceway stays. The raceway is, the length of the raceway is based on the frontage, so the raceway stays, so you're just changing the stuff that's on that raceway instead of, constantly pulling out signs. And I mean, if you think about how many businesses have moved in the 4 years that we've been doing this, it's a lot. I mean, and sometimes they don't take the sign down, so the landlord will go and just take it down, and all of a sudden you have this really ugly mess up behind.
There is, on page 46, there is new language in there on removal of signage. I don't know what it's replacing, I didn't cross-reference it, but on the bottom of page 46, on the B, it says, maybe we can tighten that up to make sure that it is either like you said, put in the raceways and leave the raceways and make sure. Because those should be as unsightly when we think about it. They can have one holes.
The raceways that I've put up in the past, and the villages that I've dealt with where they're mandatory, is they're painted to match what they're on. So even if a raceway is just up there, you're going to see it, but it's nothing even remotely close to them.
No, I know, right? It looks like a channel line where all the letters were, where the electric went through. We'd want all that repaired, and it looks to me like some of the language goes toward that.
I would just say channel letters have to be raceway mounted. That's the way you get past it.
I agree with that. I think that, I think the one where it leaves the hole is terrible. And we've got several instances where that's the case.
So just so you know, on page 46, number 6 on the top, we do talk about raceways. We're not mandating them, but some of the sign letters are like spaced out for Panera kind of thing. So do you want to really mandate for every business sign? I mean, that was our concern.
I remember us having a fairly lengthy discussion on this, and Melissa had some pretty extensive views on this. I don't remember specifically what came of that. That may have been one of the concerns, because we did talk about this topic in general. I think we all agree the ones that are taken down and the dirt and the grime still basically has the sign up there. And we do have several examples of that right now, or I don't recall the extent of that conversation, and I know there was...
You could put logos on there too, anything can go on the raceway.
But your experience with the Panera, is that something that, is a deal breaker for Panera, to BJ's example?
Yeah, because they go on raceways.
I mean, the letters are really spread out, so do you want to mandate raceways for when the copy letters are really spread out?
We can include that just in general property maintenance. It was actually on my list of things bringing forward in the future, was to keep it as the owners a general property maintenance requirement that any signs are removed, they would have to repair or repaint and
Isn't that what number 7 is? So it's an enforcement issue? Because it does say in number 7 on page 46.
Restoration.
The restoration, but clearly there's some landlords here that are not doing it.
Well, and this is all new language, all this blue is new language,
So
so we're trying to write in that we have the right to make sure that this is kept up.
So I'm fine with that. As long as, if we have 7 in there, then I think that covers exactly what we're talking about.
Is there a time frame on that? Did we put a time window on that?
Down below on the B, it's 60 days.
60 days.
60 days. If there's a discontinuance.
46.
For removal of the signs, so we should allow a landlord an additional 60 days to repair that damage.
And I've actually talked to one of our businesses, one of the, here recently regarding this, and he understands the situation. He agrees that it's not an unreasonable request for us to want to fix those sections.
And how about something, can we put something in there like in a clean white panel on a multi-tenant sign instead of just turning the backward and still illuminating it all that? Because that's what they do. I mean, obviously we don't want to leave a hole in their sign if that is indeed the case. But just turning it backward and still illuminating doesn't solve the problem either. It just looks odd. Here's one for Brian.
Is there any other comments, information?
No, I would just like to comment that I agree with the village manager that I'm glad that you brought it up, that not voting on this tonight, letting you guys get all this together.
We'd have to
Pretty
take
clean,
copies.
yeah. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think, just to piggyback on trustee Rogers from earlier, this is, I don't want it to be lost in some of the back and forth, this is a pro-business exercise to streamline the process, to make it where we have fewer of these variances coming to us, extra steps in the process, to clean this up and say these are the standards, and we deal with fewer of the variances. I think lots of these are making them more business friendly. And that's been the goal of the exercise, sort of twofold. Start cutting down on the variances that have come to us with every new development. These are the rules. These are more flexible than they've been in the past, and go forward.
Okay, so that we can see a clean copy of all the comments and suggestions we made. With the person, who made the first and second?
I think I did.
If we would want to.
Yeah, I would withdraw my motion and then maybe we can table it.
Okay, then you second. Oh, okay. And you're good with that? Okay, so we motion to table, do we have to call a roll or as many says aye?
All in favor is fine.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve resolution number 20001, a resolution authorizing the release of executive session minutes? Second. Any discussion?
I would just like to clarify that majority of these minutes, it may seem like a lot, but the majority of these were once upon a time approved in an executive session prior to our time. So to make it legit, we're doing this resolution. So they already have been technically approved by previous boards, but there's never a resolution done.
And these minutes are
So just
approved and released, right?
I'm sorry?
These are approved and released.
Yes, they are approved.
We've approved others in the past and we probably will in the future, which will not necessarily always be released, but these are.
I think you're still in high school.
Just graduating. Oh, wait, do a roll call?
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Rogers.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sharon.
Yes.
Brian Duran. Trustee Green. Where am I?
Protocols out there.
Trustee Gasmino.
Aye.
Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Holt.
Is there any old business?
I gave a couple sheets of paper to Clerk Turkey, just with I thought they were typos. I didn't fill in the word mentioning under the approval of the minutes. Are you okay with what I gave you?
I based on the minutes for what you have on here, based on what was presented at the prior board meeting for the script, so I have to look and see what the,
Well, if you read it up in the
I see where you
motion,
have
it says ordinance, but then
resolution.
it says
I see.
resolution. I think it's just a typo.
yeah, so, I mean, once it's approved,
Well, if this is a typo, we can fix
I
it.
think it's just a typo. I just wanted to mention.
very simple words.
Is there any old business? Is there any new business? The next item is executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing executive session minutes 5 ILCS 120/2 C21, pending or potential litigation? 5 LCS 120/2 C11, and purchase or sale of real property, 5 ILCS 120/2 C5.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We will leave for executive session.